Welcome to the Change Agent Podcast, where we are exploring the topics of leadership, project management, team building, technology, and all that good stuff. The goal of this podcast is to bring to you lessons learned from experience, mistakes, real-world scenarios, and stuff like that may help you navigate the treacherous waters of being a leader and a project manager. We strive to drive value for you and your organization and to improve team performance. And so I hope you're looking forward to today's episode. And if so, let's get to it. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Eric, and in today's episode, which is episode 2 of season 2, we're going to mark the official journey into project management principles, leadership, and more from a practical standpoint. The content from here on out aligns with the Project Management Body of Knowledge, or the PMBOK Guide, 7th edition from the Project Management Institute, or PMI. I use this body of knowledge as a reference and to show you how I apply its guidelines and principles in everyday project management. As such, I think it's fitting that we begin with the foundations of actual project management, discuss things like terminology, the project lifecycle, building a roadmap to success through the primary stages of project management, what they're called, some core principles, and then some of the leadership and practice. So over the next half hour or so, I'm going to give you some insights, tips, and ideas that you can put into practice today, I hope. You can even use this and future episodes if you want as a study guide if you're looking to take the PMP exam within the next 4 to 6 months. What? 4 to 6 months? Yes, absolutely. You need 4 to 6 months to get ready. You know, that's my opinion. I think if you've been around project management for any length of time, and if you've got a good study regimen and you have a quiet place, you could do it much quicker than that. And I've seen people do it in less than 30 days. I've seen people do it in 3 months, and I've seen people do it in 6 months. But in general, they want you to have at least 2 or 3 months of studying before you go and take the exam. Now, as a PMP certified project manager with more than 26 years of experience, I'm super excited to share with you some of the core principles that form the backbone of project management. And we're going to be breaking our conversations today down into 5 primary segments, and I'm going to try to make it as much fun as possible. So let's go. All right. So segment 1 of project management is the essence of project management. So exactly what is a project? I mean, it's hard to be a project manager if you don't know what a project is. So at its core, and I'm going to do what they call a foot stomp. And if I have something that's important, I'll tell you to remember this. But at its core, a project is a temporary, I'm pausing so you can write that down, temporary endeavor designed to create a unique product, service, or result. It's temporary and it's unique, okay? So unlike regular operations, which they have a timeline that's indefinite, right? Operations are continual. They don't stop. Projects have a clear beginning and a clear end. There's a start date, there's an end date. This uniqueness makes project management a craft of balancing the constraints, managing the uncertainties, and navigating changes while you deliver value. So these things that we're going to be talking about today should be familiar to you if you follow the podcast from season 1 all the way up through season 2. I would have talked about all of these already. So if you haven't gotten these, go back to the first season. They're available on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Take a listen to those, or listen to this one and then go back. So think of it like building a house from scratch, right? You have a set blueprint, you've got a target finish date when it needs to be done, and all along the way, you can expect to encounter unexpected foundation issues, supply shortage of some sort, a design mod, personnel being out due to sickness or injury, hopefully not injuries. But project management is about anticipating all of this and having the processes and the mindset to adapt to all of that. Now, one practical lesson that I've learned over the years is that clarity is super paramount. From the start, you need to clearly define what your project's objectives are. What is it you're trying to achieve? Then, what does success look like? And then understand what the constraints are, whether that's time, cost, or scope. And that's 3 big ones, right? Remember this one. Time, cost, and scope are your constraints, and they often refer to that as the iron triangle in project management. These become those guiding metrics for every decision you make. And it's extremely important to understand that when you increase or decrease one of those constraints, it's going to have an impact on the other one. So if you increase the amount of time that you're going to do the project, you need more people for that time. You need more supplies for that time. So your cost is going to go up. Your scope may not change, but if you increase your time, then your cost is going to go up. If you increase the scope, then your cost will go up, possibly, and possibly the timing will go up, right? So you need to understand that all of those constraints are interconnected. And remember, it's not just about managing the tasks, right? It's about generating value as you go through each step. And I'll talk more about that a little bit later. Whether you're working on a multi-million-dollar project, something really, really large, or something super simple, internal process to like maybe implement a new form. These are moments where you can interject all of these skill sets and get your team moving in the right direction. And the way to do that is to make sure that they understand the why behind your work. They must remain motivated and they have to remain aligned. And so these are the core central parts of what success looks like. Let's move into segment 2. This one is the project lifecycle. Now, a roadmap that you can use is there are 5 different process groups where you're going to be really looking at this. And then project management, you need to understand the full journey from initiation of a project all the way through closure. And it's crucial that you think this way because there are many things, especially within the PMP world, that fit into these all of these different groups. So the first one is initiation. Now, this is where you're going to define the project at a high level. You're going to have a project charter that's drawn up, and the project charter could be anything from a handwritten idea on some paper to a formal document that you create in Word or Google Sheets, Google Docs, or whatever platform you might use, or even Microsoft Project for that matter. And you gather your initial requirements. These are the things that you think you're going to need to do, or the things that are known right now. But as the project moves along, you're going to start having more and more discoveries. They call that the rolling wave scenario. So you're going to end up having more discovery. But in the beginning, the initiation of the project, you don't need to know everything. You need to know what the immediate requirements are, the high level requirements, and getting those together. You're going to want to identify the people that you're going to have to be working with. These are your stakeholders. You're identifying your stakeholders. We'll talk more about stakeholders and stakeholder management areas later on in future episodes. But essentially think of anyone that has anything to do with your project. This could be obviously your customer and your team, but it also includes your bosses, your functional managers, resource managers, human resources, supply chains, and the public, and all of the policies that go along with it. And then you're going to define what the primary purpose of the project is, the scope statement. What am I trying to accomplish here? So I recommend spending quite a bit of time in the initiation phase, sketching out a vision plan of what you want to do here really will pay off, and it will help set the stage for everything else. And generally, when you go to get a sponsor to sign off on this and get everything started so that you can get the project charter initiated and done and completed so that you can start creating your next set of documents, you're going to want to have a clear set of what this all looks like so that the people that you're pitching this to know exactly what they're investing in. The second group is the planning. Okay, so this planning phase is where you're going to take that high level vision and you're going to start making it more clear. And it starts to take center stage of everything in the document. You're going to spend a ton of time in planning. In fact, there are more processes that happen inside planning than almost anywhere else. They say in the Army that, it's called the 3 Ps. You can look it up. But it's not just a series of documents where you outline how you're going to deliver on your project's promise. It's not just who's going to do what or some simple schedule that you create in Excel. This is where you're going to really develop the work breakdown structure. So the WBS gets developed in these phases. And you're going to look down at scheduling. You're going to do risk planning. All these things get rolled into this. And we won't go into a detail here, but the planning phase is where you're going to really start looking at what am I doing? What do I have to do to accomplish those things? Who do I need to do that with? What is my schedule and what kind of schedule am I working on? What phase gates do I have? What kill points do I have within the project? Because maybe it's a schedule of 1 year and every quarter you've got a kill point where someone goes in and does a review of your project and they can decide whether they want to kill it or keep it going. Your goal is to get past that, right? And deliver a product on time and within budget. So here you're going to want to really embrace this iterative planning idea. This is the idea is that you're developing an initial baseline plan. You're trying to get back to the baseline, and then you're going to start scheduling and working in float, which is the amount of time that you have between different tasks. So if you have a task that stops on Monday and another one starts on Wednesday, then you have that 1 or 2 day float, right? That 1 day float rather. And so you're going to want to have room built in for mistakes, for changes, and all these different things. And you're going to want to expect those and have those checkpoints built into your plan. This makes your approach very adaptive and resilient to unforeseen issues. Execution is next. Now, this is where everything goes into full swing, right? Execution is not merely about following the plan. You try to as much as you possibly can, but it's not just that. It's about the dynamic leadership, which is all the things that we've talked about before. This stage of execution, inside execution, calls for you to have a solid communications plan. You need to effectively delegate stuff down to your team, ensure that your team is operating at full performance. They've gone through the storming, norming, forming, all that stuff. And continuous performance monitoring happens all the time. And this could be anything, right? You could just simply, hey, how you doing? How are things going? Could be monitoring. Okay, but that's not what we're doing in this particular stage. You're just checking on them. There's an actual monitoring and controlling phase. But here, the quality of your leadership and the ability to motivate your team and the robustness of those communications channels really determine whether or not your project will run smoothly. And then next will be monitoring and controlling. So while that's executing, you're going to do in parallel monitoring and controlling while it's in execution. So these two things work together. Okay. So as your project is working and it's unfolding and things are moving along, you're continuously assessing the progress against the plan. You don't want variance, right? So if your plan says you needed to have the foundation for a shed laid and by the end of the week, and it's 2 weeks later and you still don't have the concrete poured, you're way behind, right? So you're trying to constantly and continuously assess where you're at, and this is done best by talking to your team. Okay. This phase is about tracking the key performance indicators, these key KPIs. You're managing changes, you're adjusting your strategies as you need to, and you're getting a constant loop of feedback and adapting. And this is really a true test of your leadership ability through the uncertainty period. So there's an actual podcast called Leading Through Uncertainty. Go back and check it out. There's more detail on that specific topic. But during monitoring and controlling, you're really going through and just asking how things are going. You're checking, you're getting progress reports and things like that. And then the final phase is closing. So once you've gotten your objective and they've been met, it's time to wrap everything up. And this is not just simply taking the keys to the shed and giving it to the owner. It might be that simple, but it would be nice if you had a formal closing phase, right? Where you closed out all your paperwork, you closed out resources, money, personnel, equipment, all the things that go with it. So once your final objectives have been met and they have been accepted, you're not done until they're accepted. So just because you finished it doesn't mean you're finished. You could have popped the last nail in the shed and be like, we're done. But that's just not the way it works. In real project management, once you've delivered something, you need acceptance. And then once that final acceptance is done and you've got it in writing, then you're done and you can wrap up everything. So you hand off all your deliverables. You're releasing the resources back to wherever they came from or onto another project. And you're documenting everything that happened in the project, which you should be doing all the way through these phases, but it helps to go back and do a double check on documentation at the end. This is your lessons learned. What did we learn throughout the entire project? And the closing phase is just as important as the start of the project. This is where you're capturing insights and this is what turns every project into a learning experience. So the next time you do something similar to this, you'll have a lot of lessons learned. I always tell my teams, I think of the project lifecycle as kind of a living, breathing process. And when I'm thinking about projects myself, regardless of how small they are, it could be simply trying to get a new certification, could be a project, painting the bathroom or planting something in the garden, putting out some new flower beds or some new vegetables or whatever. It's all a living, breathing process. It's not a rigid sequence, but rather a framework that guides you through each phase while allowing room for the agility to respond to different things that are unexpected and those uncertainties. So again, we have 5 different areas. We have initiating or initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and controlling, and closing. Again, you'll find these references in the PMBOK Guide, Project Management Body of Knowledge, several editions, but 7th is where we're looking at now. So let's move over to segment 3. This is the core principles and practical insights. So let's examine some foundational principles that can inform every successful project, principles that are implicitly woven into the PMBOK Guide, but also reflect my own experiences as a leader. So value delivery, I said earlier, we were going to talk a little bit more about value, and you might think to yourself, okay, well, I'm supposed to drive value at every step. Well, one, what is value? And then how do I deliver that? So everything we do in a project should revolve around delivering real value to our stakeholders. This means that your stakeholders are getting something out of it, right? When you go and you hire a team to build your shed, you want value. And if you're like me, you like to stick your head out the door every so often to see how the progress is going. Well, I like to see some stuff being poured. I like to see rebar put into the concrete. I like to see wood going up. I like to see shingles on the roof. There's something that they're going out. And in the real world, this is the best example I think I have about delivering value is the agile mindset. So when you have an agile team and they're doing, say, software development, and you have your daily stand-ups, or now they call them team syncs, or you're doing demos and things like this to your product owners, they want to see what they're getting. And it could be a new feature. It could be a new color a new color on a button. It could be something really simple, but you want to be delivering value. And so what you really need to be doing is understanding that when you're doing these projects, it's not just about clicking through the boxes of that we've accomplished this, we've accomplished that, we've accomplished this, let's keep moving. It's about how every single process, every decision enhances the overall benefit of the project and what it's expected to deliver. So that when your product owner or your stakeholder comes in and says, what have we got today? You can say, we've done, or we will have that by the end of the day. So ask yourself, what are we are we focusing just on the outcomes or just the outputs, right? There's a big difference. Next, we want to look at tailored approaches. Now, no two projects are alike, which means that a one-size-fits-all methodology would rarely ever work. Just because you manage project A really well and you think you got it pat down, project B rolls around and it's complex and it's much different with much different personalities involved, and so you're going to struggle. That's what makes this treacherous, right? These waters treacherous when it comes to being a project manager or a leader, because it's not always the same every single time you turn around. So you're going to want to adapt your processes to the context of what the project is. All these things that we're learning, they're tools that go into a toolbox. And when we get a project and we come upon a situation or we have something going on, we go into that toolbox and we say, okay, this is what I've got. Here are my tools. It's better if I do this first and then that, or maybe I do this a little bit differently than I did it last time. Okay. So no two projects are exactly alike. So for instance, in a highly innovative or uncertain environment, you're going to want to rely more on agile techniques where you're constantly evolving and delivering value. On the other hand, highly regulated industries might need a more formal structured process. And the key is to understand your project's unique demands and tailor those methods accordingly. The use of agile methodologies is great for software development or something where you have to learn fast and fail fast so that you can keep innovating. In traditional projects where I would say like building a bridge, construction projects or something like that, you're going to want to have a more formal process, the predictive model that we use, or what many people refer to as the waterfall. Next, we're going to talk about stakeholder engagement. This is extremely important, probably one of the most important things you can do. Effective project management is not about managing tasks. You could manage the hell out of some tasks, and it won't matter if your stakeholders are not engaged and you don't keep them aligned. It's not going to really help you. It's about engaging your stakeholders at every level, those around you, below you, above you, so the 360-degree 4D world that you're in. A project's success it really does depend largely on how well you can understand and manage the expectations of people involved. So this means communicating openly, setting clear expectations early, and addressing concerns head on. So in my experience, projects with a well-oiled stakeholder communications plan often encounter very few surprises along the way. When I'm talking, I was actually talking to one of my stakeholders a couple of weeks ago as I started on a new project. And when I got there, she asked me point blank after I gave her my name, "What are you doing for me today?" Or "What are you doing for me?" And I gave her the answer, and I told her, above all things, I'll communicate and I'll come see you as often as I can. And that alone just gives the stakeholder a reassurance that regardless of what happens, they're going to always have access to me and access to the information that they might need so that we can clear up an issue or maybe get a reward of some sort. Next, we're going to talk about continuous learning. It does no good for you to do a whole bunch of work and never learn anything from it. Every project, think of it this way, every project is an opportunity to learn. So whether you're celebrating success or you're examining a setback or whatever, some failure or issue, it's essential that you capture all of your lessons learned. Instill a culture in your team where feedback is seen as a pathway to improvement rather than criticism. Constructive criticism is often well received, and obviously getting down on people is not. But you want to try to include your team in making sure that lessons are learned and they're captured, and making sure that they feel like they're really contributing to the things that they've learned to make the project better, not just this time, but next time. This mindset not only improves individual performance across the team, but it builds collective resilience and it sets the stage for future success. So what you want to make sure is that you're all actively engaged in capturing lessons learned. In the military, they used to say when you were on and doing gate guard or you're doing some other type of stuff that everybody was a security officer or everybody was something else or everybody was a business developer in a corporation. It's the same thing here. Everybody on the team should be a lessons learned capture person, if that makes sense. And then last, we're going to talk about risk awareness and management. Now, risks are inherent in every single project that you do. There's always some form of risk. And instead of hoping for a risk-free execution, you need to anticipate what those potential challenges might be and prepare for them. This is really a good exercise to do in terms of brainstorming with your team. Sit down and just simply ask the question, what could go wrong? And then let people start writing on the whiteboard or giving you ideas. It's not about being a pessimist by any means at all. It's about being proactive. You're trying to capture those things so that you can prepare for them. You capture those risks in the risk log, a risk tracker, and then you assign those risks to somebody and everybody's watched and they're tracked. Establish a continuous risk management process using that. It not only identifies risks, but it helps prioritize them and their potential impact on the project. So this could be everything from we ran out of money to we ran out of people to we don't have the network anymore. There's a policy that's been in place. Think about the current political environment in the United States. Did they consider that a risk? I'm sure that some did, but I bet there are others right now wishing they had. It's not about, it's not just you're trying to get a project back on track or whatever. It's really you trying to make sure that you're prepared for everything that could happen. And it really is a testament to the power of adaptable leadership. Let's move to segment 4, leadership and practice. Now, this is where we're really going to be bridging theory over to reality. So let's bridge these principles with leadership. Now, as a project manager and a leader, you're not just applying techniques, you're shaping the way that your team works and the way they feel about the project. This is the first one we're going to talk about here. The first point is empathetic communication. Yes, I said the E word because I believe in it. Empathy is huge in leadership. One of the most important tools in your leadership arsenal is empathy. Understand that your team members are dealing with their own challenges, all their uncertainties. And I said this in my last episode 1 of the season. I talked about this very at length, but everybody's dealing with something else that you may not have any idea of what they're doing, of what they're going through. So regular check-ins and being genuine when you're having a one-on-one conversation can make all the difference in the world and really affect the project morale. Next, you want to start making sure that you put a focus on mentorship and support. So encourage a learning culture. Even in the moments of high pressure, try to take time to mentor the team through these things. Try to get people to fail fast so that they can learn quickly. It not only builds the competence, but it also helps combat feelings of people being isolated, helps refute doubt, and it addresses common challenges for new project managers. And lastly, lead by example. Don't ever ask somebody to do something you're not willing to do yourself. Your actions and the way that you undertake those actions will set the tone for the entire project. Whether it's adhering to the deadlines, the deadlines don't really, it's not that big of a deal. They'll give me another day. It won't matter if it's a day late. Bad idea. You want to make sure that you're adhering to the deadlines. You're handling your setbacks gracefully. You're not getting angry. You're not letting that stuff come out in the open. You're openly discussing mistakes. You take ownership of your mistakes, and you model the behavior that you want your team to give you. So that's crucial. And when leaders show that they're continuously learning and adapting, it empowers that team to follow suit. So I think I like to think of leadership as kind of the heartbeat of project management. It's the force that turns a set of processes and plans into a dynamic, responsive, and ultimately successful endeavor. The connection between leadership and project management is evident every single time a team rallies around a common goal, guided by a leader who's both knowledgeable and approachable and able to take care of the things that they need to take care of, and of course, showing empathy. So it's extremely important that we look through these things, take what we can out of them, and try to and start employing those practices as quickly as possible, even if it's in a minimal amount. So to wrap up, I want to, we discussed a little bit about what it means to be a project manager. We talked about the project, what it is. It's temporary and unique. We talked about the how it delivers value daily, and what does it really mean to be a project manager in today's evolving landscape. So it's really just a whole bunch of different things that we've done. We explored much of the basics, of course, like projects as temporary endeavors, following a flexible life cycle, embracing core principles like value delivery, tailored approaches, stakeholder engagement, continuous learning, risk management, and all those good ideas. But these principles aren't isolated theoretical things. They are practical tools that you can use every single day to navigate your projects and lead your teams more effectively. Every new project is a new journey with its own challenges. You need to be ready for those challenges. But when you have a strong foundation, and you again, going back to that planning phase, if you plan well and you plan early, you'll be better equipped to steer that journey towards success. So thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the foundational principles of project management, and I certainly hope that you had a good time with this discussion and listening, and I hope that it helped clarify not only what these principles are, but also how you can apply them in your daily work. If you found this episode valuable, I'd like for you to subscribe, get notifications, leave a review, and share it with your fellow aspiring project managers and leaders. You can also catch me on kalinavision.com. That's KALYN as in Nancy -vision.com, and check out YouTube at Beyond the Glare for more insights and resources to help you on your journey. I'm Eric, and this has been the Change Agent. Remember that leadership and project management are not about having all the answers. They're about continuously asking better questions and learning from every single experience. So until next time, make sure you keep leading, keep adapting, stay focused on delivering value.